why the hell would you do something so evil? These babies, you're their protector. Why would you do this? Everything we know about her would point to a psychotic break. It's unspeakable.
It's one of the reasons these things garner so much attention. They kind of break at the very nature of what is civilized society. Welcome to Two Angry Men. Actually, today it's one angry man and a mildly irritated female, which is Lauren Conlin, who's making a return appearance. Lauren, we love you. For those who are worried about Harvey, he's on the mend and we'll be back next week, but we always feel like it's an upgrade when Lauren drops by. And Lauren, I'll bet you that anybody who sees you today as they flip this on knows exactly what the topic is.
Yes, this is a tough topic, and Harvey, nobody can fill Harvey's shoes. I just want to say that. But Mark, I do believe this is one of the most difficult and most brutal trials I have ever watched and I have ever covered for a number of reasons. And this trial is not about a whodunit. Lindsay Clancy, a 35-year-old Massachusetts mother, she admittedly strangled her 3 children to death in 2023. And the state of Massachusetts is saying she is criminally liable for this, while she is arguing that she had a psychotic break. And this has not been easy. It just hasn't. And I gotta say, looking at Lindsay Clancy and looking at her background, just, she's from Connecticut, I'm from New Hampshire. I relate to her a lot. And that's also what is just so troubling about this. It seemingly just kind of came out of nowhere.
So there's been a couple of things, and you use the term admittedly, because there's been quite a bit of chatter on the internet, as there usually is, with kind of strange conspiracy theories. But there was one interesting thing that I think Branson has got a video clip that I wanted to play right up at the top so we could talk. The defense lawyer is getting accolades, and I think deservedly so. I call him Big Red, but let's see if we've got a clip here, Branson.
Mark, before we play that clip, I didn't get to finish. I left out the part where after Lindsay Clancy killed her children, she attempted to take her own life by ingesting a number of medications, slitting her wrists and right here, and then jumping out her bedroom window about 20 feet. She is now paralyzed from the sternum down.
And by the way, that was a great lead into the clip that we've got where the judge is talking. I don't want to say scolding, but he seems perplexed with the prosecution as to what they're doing.
The Commonwealth has at least inferred through their case that this was not a serious suicide attempt, right? I mean, and there's questions about whether or not somebody's hanging outside the window or not. And so why wasn't this an issue that the Commonwealth could have anticipated would come up?
The position of the Commonwealth isn't that it wasn't a serious suicide attempt. It's that the methods that were chosen were insufficient to achieve the goal. And the reasons for that, we would argue in our closing. I don't think we have to disclose that theory at this point, but we've never said it wasn't a serious suicide attempt. We've never said it was a fake suicide attempt. What we've endeavored to develop from the testimony is that the methods that were chosen were methods that would be unsuccessful, but we're not saying it wasn't a serious attempt.
Okay, no wonder the defense lawyer, Big Red, is so irritated. If you had to listen to that, for lack of here, let me give you a throwback term, gobbledygook out of that prosecutor's mouth. We're not saying it wasn't a serious attempt at suicide. Yes, you are. All of your presentation has been framed that wasn't a serious attempt. But what we are saying is that it didn't rise to the level of what? I mean, nothing that was just said there made any sense to me, but please push back.
Well, I mean, it's funny you said gobbledygook because Kevin Reddington literally said that the other day. He was so frustrated regarding another expert because, Mark, they also entered into a stipulation where the prosecution doesn't necessarily have to prove certain elements about, DNA, for example. And they're doing this because, again, it's about if she had a psychotic break, not if the children's DNA was found on the exercise bands. Because look, everybody is just seemingly tortured by this trial. It is so freaking sad. So, they're up there still talking about DNA, and Reddington's like, what is this gobbledygook? And then in terms of what you're saying with the quote fake suicide attempt, it absolutely, to me, in my opinion, does seem like they're trying to say that because she was unsuccessful. If she was successful, we'd be having a completely different conversation. Well, we'd be saying, what half the people are saying, postpartum mothers, they need better healthcare, they need more attention. But they had doctors come up there basically saying, the medication she took, it was not a lethal amount. Some of the cuts were quote superficial, but I mean, I saw the pictures. It makes me really sick to think about someone doing that to themselves, and that's just me. But I think it looks like she was trying to harm herself. In addition to jumping out the window where she is now paralyzed. I mean,
and for those who don't follow this in the weeds, the husband, who is the quintessential victim, was on the stand, and he does not think this was faked. That 911 call, that transcript is the most heartbreaking thing I've ever read.
It's awful. And he has publicly forgiven her. He has publicly said she's not a monster. Yeah, he did. I mean, I cannot imagine being him. I also think that he has a lot of demons himself over this. I'm sure he has a guilty conscience about what he, should have done, what he could have done, etc. I'm sure this is incredibly traumatizing for him all over again. And I think that the internet has taken a lot of their conspiracy theories too far at this point, Mark. I just think it's gotten completely out of control what they've also done to him in terms of what TikTok is saying about his involvement in the children's death. It's absolutely disturbing and disgusting.
Well, speaking of which, there was another one. Branson, do you have this another clip that has been garnering a lot of chatter, for lack of a better term?
I really don't want to go to the sidebar.
I need to know what you're going to talk about before.
I want to tell you that they got picked up on a hot mic saying, shut her up during the playing of that autopsy.
All right.
This is not like Handmaid's Tales where you're going to tape them out.
So I'm not doing that at all. I just want to find out what the issue is. There's a lot of privileged issues, and then you can tell me that.
So why don't you frame what happened there? Because I'm channeling his anger there. I don't want to come to sidebar. I'm not sitting here to try to clean up after the prosecutors.
Yeah, it was a rough day of testimony where the medical examiner was describing baby Callan, that's her 8-month-old, the injuries that Callan had, because Callan actually passed away a few days succumbing to his injuries, while the other 2 children were pronounced deceased that night. So during the explanation of the autopsy, and also the autopsy photos of the children were only shown to the jury and the defense and the prosecution. So nobody can see those. Nobody will see those. They are sealed. But Lindsay Clancy was sobbing loudly to the point that they needed to stop and take a break. And apparently, though the prosecutors are denying it, a hot mic picked up one of them saying, "Shut her up." And Reddington was not having it. He was, angry.
Yeah, to say the least, and rightfully so. I dare say that if that was the defense lawyer who mumbled something on a hot mic during a prosecution witness about a prosecution witness and said, "Shut them up," what would happen? Speaking of which, you pointed out something that I had not seen. That we're taping this on Friday, dropping Saturday, but yesterday, Thursday, why don't you talk about this particular judge, Lauren, and kind of
Yes.
eerily.
Yes. So the judge in this case, who, I think he commands a courtroom, from what I've observed, but this is Judge William Sullivan, and he had a case in 2022, brutal case. They call it kind of like the voodoo killings, where this mother, she stabbed her two children. I mean, double-digit stabbing, absolutely
80
terrible.
times, according to the opinion, 80 times, right?
80 times. Yeah. I mean, it's unspeakable, but she was convicted, and now her conviction has been overturned on appeal because there were certain medical records about her mental health that were not admitted. So now this woman gets a new trial. And that is, listen, I understand. I get it. Constitutional rights. I don't know enough about this case specifically to speak on that, but it does kind of make you a little concerned about the Clancy case and some of the handlings here. So again, we're not finished though. We're maybe not even halfway through the trial. There is reportedly hundreds of witnesses, though the stipulation will cut some back. So we'll see.
So if the timing of it is amazing because, as you indicate, we're right in the middle of trial. There have been skirmish and battle and skirmish after one another during the trial over what comes in, what doesn't come in, the balancing of prejudicial versus probative. And then boom, right in the smack dab at the halfway point of the trial, this particular judge gets reversed, and he gets reversed specifically on an issue that they've been battling over, which is the scope of the records that come in and whether he was too restrictive before. And it's just an incredible coincidence or serendipity, if that's it.
And let me ask you, I mean, he has no indication about, or maybe he does. Does he know prior to it being announced that a case is going to be, or a conviction is going to be overturned? Like, does he have any idea that this is
normally, although I will tell you, after watching Alan Jackson and the Karen Reed case, I readily admit to being befuddled by a lot of things that happen in Massachusetts, but normally in most jurisdictions, it's not like you get a heads up. Normally what will happen is that the clerk of the appellate court presses send, and the participants, with the appellant and the respondent and the trial judge, all will get it simultaneously. So I don't think he had any advance notice. He had to know, though. Most trial judges that I know, when there is an appeal, you have to serve the trial judge. And when you serve the trial judge, most trial judges who were obviously heavily involved and are a participant in the trial, out of just intellectual curiosity, if nothing more, are going to read the appeal to see what the lawyers are saying about what they did and what their actions did. And so I'm sure he was well aware of this, and I'm sure, and I tend to agree with you from everything I've seen. I haven't seen anything that I would second guess. I do share the fact that more than one person has commented to me that the defense lawyer in this case channels my inner frustration with prosecutors.
Well, you hide it better than he does, dude. Oh my gosh. Like Geragos, there are moments where, his face is very red anyway. He's got that, that I don't know, that
ruddy Bostonian complexion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's, he definitely does not hide his emotions at all. He doesn't. And I will say he looks so devastated sometimes, Mark, when Lindsay is just sobbing next to him. The guy just looks defeated. He just looks like this is, I don't know, but I would imagine this is the hardest case he's ever had to try. It's awful when you're talking about children. And so, I wonder if
I've said it so many times that the part of your soul that gets robbed as a defense lawyer and when I say robbed, I mean smash and grab, is when you're defending someone who's lost a kid, and then it's compounded when they're the ones who are accused of it, and then it's kind of taken to an exponential another level when you're talking about the fact that there is just these grave mental illness that is at least seemingly involved. It's just, there's nobody who's a winner. And that's why I say I never understand in these cases whose interest the prosecution is vindicating, because obviously the husband is the victim, and he doesn't want this to happen. And then we saw that clip right there about the DA prosecutor saying, "I don't want to disclose my closing argument." Wait, but what, your theory all of a sudden is going to be different?
Let me talk to you about that, because that's something that I haven't really been on board with here. And look, I understand those kids really, truly, obviously are the victims. And I understand why a prosecutor would feel like they need justice in the eyes of the law. I get that. I don't think this case is very simple. And honestly, I go back and forth pretty much every day about this. So what I think has been very confusing is the motive they're trying to say. Like, she was frustrated with them. They're showing Facebook posts she wrote in 2021 in moms groups, just, sharing frustrations about her child whom she loves. And it could have been any one of us. It could have been me, it could have been another mom I know. Everyone they've put on the stand that knows Lindsay Clancy, that is friends with her, that worked with her, they love her, including her mother-in-law. I mean, they are saying she was a devoted mother. She loved her children. She worked twice as hard as most mothers. I'm not really getting the motive here. It's not like Susan Smith, where she had a boyfriend and she wanted a new life. That is not the case. And, just to sort of correct a statement I said earlier, when I said this kind of came out of nowhere, it's not that it came out of nowhere. She was experiencing some very early signs of, let's say, bipolar disorder or hypomania. I think it was the birth of her second child. And then it really escalated with Callan here. And I did a chronological timeline, and, granted, this is based on her civil suit. So that's her allegations, but she was on a boatload of medication. She did switch doctors within a group, and they didn't seem to consult each other. And I even wrote down, because I was looking something up, like you don't prescribe Zoloft in a patient that you think could be bipolar, because that causes hallucinations. And Lindsay Clancy claims she was hallucinating and heard a man's voice the day that she murdered her children and tried to kill herself. But the prosecution is like, well, no, she took Cora to the doctor that day. She made a snowman in the backyard. She was fine. There was nothing there. So I'm just like, I just don't think it works like that. We're talking about the time of the offense specifically, not the events surrounding it. That was a really long rant. Sorry.
Right. Well, but you point out things that are frustrating as a lawyer who sits in a courtroom, when you cherry pick something from 2022 or 2021, and you have to wonder, have you ever, if you're a female or a male, have you ever talked to a mother of young kids? Have you ever, do you understand the frustration level that young kids can take you from 0 to 120? And the idea that you're going to pick and choose comments like, I'm tearing my hair out, or some other expression, and then say 5 years later you're going to throw it in the mix and frame it as, see, she was planning this, it was premeditated. To me, it just strains credulity that this is anything but a mental health crisis that, to your point, really is more, was this precipitated, was kind of one of the causes, the medications and the change of medications. And it harkens back to, I can't tell you how many cases, I could tick off 10 high profile cases that I have seen or commented on in the last 2 years where a change in medication, one of the side effects is this kind of psychotic breaks that you end up having.
Right, right. And I mean, I just do not envy this jury. This jury has it so hard, Mark, from having to see these photos, from having to make a decision like this. I mean, I just can't imagine them going home every night and sleeping very well at this point. It's so awful. And I've said I haven't made up my mind. Obviously, the trial is not over, but it's like every day there's something different that we're learning, and there's something new to ponder. And I just go back to Lindsay appearing, by all accounts and by friends and family, to love her kids more than anything. And you just have to think, why the hell would you do something so evil? These babies, you're their protector. Why would you do this? Everything we know about her would point to a psychotic break, because she wouldn't have done it, without having one. It's unspeakable. It's unspeakable.
It's one of the reasons these things garner so much attention. They're so counterintuitive. They kind of break at the very nature of what is civilized society. Anyway, thank you, Lauren. I appreciate you coming on, stepping in for Harvey at the last minute. Hopefully he'll get his voice back, and we will read and see you on LA Mag in the coming weeks and follow. Your reporting on this has been incredible. And so
thank you
it
so
really
much.
has. So thank you, and Harvey, get well.
Hug your babies.